Welcome back to Triple Threat. And today we're so excited to have our guest, Patdro Harris, who is an award-winning director, Broadway choreographer, and a writer. Patdro has traveled the world performing theater, music, and dance. So he's a true triple threat because, as we know, a triple threat is someone who can sing, dance, and act. He has worked with stars like Stevie Wonder and has an amazing career as a Broadway choreographer. And now on to Mr. Harris. Patdro.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Ginger. I'm so excited to be on the triple threat.
Right. Well, the reason I claim that name is, as you know, I'm a dancer, but also a psychologist and a lawyer. And I don't know if you knew that about the psychology, but I did.
I didn't know
you know,
about that. I know,
yes,
something was
yes.
going on in that brain, and I can understand that. Yes.
Right. Well, speaking of that, so let's talk about how we first met, because these were just a few years ago. This was just a few years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, when I lived there too. And I found you, and it was like being in the presence of greatness. And I remember I was a little bit afraid that I would say something or put my foot in my mouth as I was taking your dance classes. But I'll never forget the lessons that you taught as a teacher and a fabulous dance instructor and choreographer. I would take your class and then go home and practice. I don't know if you knew this, but I would practice all week because you would do a little bit of a combination and then the following week you would add to it.
Yes.
So that I was able to keep up in your class. It was so fun. I just remember being in the bathroom, in the shower, doing it, running it in my head, and just not even, wanting to say anything in your class. Well, obviously you don't talk in a dance class necessarily,
Right.
but I just wanted you to like me so much. I so badly wanted you to like me. And another thing I remember is that when we were learning a combination, as a ballet trained dancer, I would count, and you would say it's on the right, or whatever. So I learned not everything is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that was my impression of you, Patdro, and I learned so much from you, and you encouraged me in my dance career. You were there when I danced in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, then went on to dancing for the NBA under Jimmy Locust. And I can't speak highly enough. And I remember when you got your Tony. So tell us a little bit more about your experience with me, and then we'll talk about your life.
Okay, well, great. Well, I'll start with where you ended up talking about in class and doing things. And I remember this bubbly person coming in. I always believe as an artist, how you say it is how you do it. So if you do it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's how you if you say boom, that's the way it comes out. Like I believe that. So I believe just as a person, not so much as an artist, but as a person, how you say things is very important. And doing those things, which we're going to translate into later on. So how you 5, 6, 7, 8, that's the science of it, but the soul of it comes and covers it up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Math works with everybody. No matter what you do in life, math always works. So
that's
that
true.
1, 2,
That's
3,
a good
4,
point.
5, 6, 7, 8 is good, But the soul of things is what we're going to talk about. And I love you being in my class and singing there and having these wonderful people come in. This bubbly person can kick, turn, jump, flop out, and shake it up. I was like, yes, who is this person? Right, this is
Walking
fantastic.
across the floor was hard. You had to teach me how to walk, walking across the floor.
Get your jazz walk on. Yeah, get your jazz walk on. So it was great though, but you could do it though. And you were just such a good group of people coming in, you people working for the Olympics and us working for the Olympics. That was just super great. So that's how we met doing it at the Rio Mall. Was it Rio Mall?
No, but I remember you brought those hula hoops to class one time.
Oh, right.
Because of the Olympic rings.
The Olympic rings. We had hula hoops as the Olympic ring, which is really smart. I thought that was Rio Mall. Maybe it was Trinity Street. It was one of those places that we did it. But to perform and do stuff for the Olympics, that's historic. So that was great for us to be a part of it, for you and I to meet doing that process and be able to do that. That was super fantastic.
Well, the Olympics are coming to Long Beach, or they're coming to LA in 2 years, in 2028, and there are going to be 8 events down the street from my house. Walking distance.
I'll be coming to visit. See, that's simple. Look at that. Look how that works out.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I mean, that was in 1996. So I'm kind of dating myself. I'm not 39, even though I keep having the birthday at 39. No. Okay. So what have we done since? So I'll share with you because you didn't know about my psychology background.
Hmm.
Um, after I left Atlanta, I moved to LA. I moved back to LA. I had lived in LA in high school, went to UCLA, danced for UCLA, by the way, Patdro. I don't know if you
Hmm.
knew that. I danced for
I
the
think I knew
football
that.
and yeah, okay. And football and basketball. And then after having lived in Atlanta, I moved back to Los Angeles, got married, and I had three precious children. During that time, I also got my master's in education and became a credentialed school psychologist. And that credential is still current today. And so the training that I received in psychology, both as an undergrad and in my master's program, has helped me with my second or actually third career. My second career would be the motherhood, right? And the third career is the law. So I sat for the bar exam in 2019 and passed it, and passed it in 2020. The second time I
Hmm.
didn't pass it the first time. Thank you. And then I built a law firm during the middle of the COVID pandemic. And I use my psychology background to help parents in custody disputes, especially. That's my main focus of concern. And so my practice spans from San Diego to San Francisco. And I work with parents who have been the targets of rejection in custody disputes. And that's where my heart beats, because I care so much about children. I like your mug. Show us that mug. Let's see. Oh, the XO.
Hugs and kisses and love. Since you said heart, I thought it would be a perfect time to take a sip.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about you. I'm especially interested in your Stevie Wonder days, and then all the way to where you are now with the next show that's coming up in Houston, Texas. Tell us a little bit about your past.
Ooh, wow, a good combination of that was like in school, I had music and theater. I had no dance.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I wanted to, when
Really?
I got out of college, I wanted to get dance. So dance was traveling around the world. I got a chance to come to Atlanta, go to New York and dance in New York for a few years and come back and dance with Stevie Wonder and all those things like that. So I had a touring theater company in college called Pop, P-O-P Pop. No matter who we are or what we do, we all are just plain old people.
Oh, I love that. I
So
love that.
yeah, so that was my thought that I wanted to do, but no, but as a professional, when I came out, they said, "Oh, you're a dancer." I said, "Yes, I am, but I got these other things I want to do." So in my college career, I wrote these things down. I wanted to perform with a message, do something that was mentioned. That was great doing that with Stevie Wonder, right off the bat at the very top. And then I want to
Exactly.
be able to be respected by my peers. And some of these awards that I won around the country and doing things really affords that. And I want to be able to pay for eat and take care of myself. And those days I would see grits and cheese. Being from originally from Alabama, that was one of my staples, grits and cheese. You know, those of you
Oh,
put
yeah.
sugar in it, don't worry about it. Okay, put grits and cheese.
Yeah.
I want to do those things. So I want to get dance to go with my music and theater. So, but I said I was going to dance for 10 years, which I did in New York, Atlanta, and other places. Then I added theater to that. When I added theater to that, people said, well, we know you're a dancer. You can't just leave this company. I said, well, I want to do this thing that I always wanted to do, before I left. And so I get a chance to really do that and direct across the country and do things. Even here in Atlanta, I've won Best Director twice. Well, I won as a choreographer first. And then I run Best Director for plays and not musical, which was it's called the Susie Bass Awards here in Atlanta. And it was great to win that just for my peers to say what I thought in college. I wanted my peers to be respected by my peers to respect the art. Not just I can do steps, but I can tell stories. And that's what I want to do my entire life. So I've been doing that for years across the country. Or this year alone, I did Dream Girls, which is sold out there in Memphis, Tennessee, which is great. I just did a revised version of Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, which is really great in Minnesota. We're going on, which is really great. And my next play coming up in Houston is called Get Ready. It's about this group of guys who've had a hit song like in the 60s and 70s, and now they're coming back. The play is set in the 90s, and now they want to get back as a group, and they all need to talk to you because they all need therapy.
Oh.
Do whatever. So they do whatever. But it's a musical. It's a great piece. So they finally come together and get to that sense. But sometimes, being addicted to those applause can really be a hard thing to get away from.
Well, that's a good
So
point, Pedro. And we've been talking about people using addiction in this podcast, people using addiction to numb or mask behaviors that are exhibited because a person doesn't want to feel certain emotions. So the viewer can certainly turn to episode 3, I believe it is, in the podcast and watch those helpful hints on how to identify maladaptive behaviors or addictions that are being used, sometimes to mask pain or certain emotions. Patdro, do you remember when you talked about the word, the concept, like
Oh yes,
ER?
absolutely.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
was thinking about it. First of all, I'm going to have
Yeah.
you define it, and then I'm going to challenge you about it. What is it? What did you
Okay.
mean when you
Er,
said What is
is proper. I'm from Georgia. I'm a director, a choreographer. It means anything that's very elevated. My wife sings. She sang with Bill, Uncle Bill. We call him Uncle Bill, but he did it. He's an opera singer, and he sang "Old Man River." Think of his name right now, doing that part. So we went to an event. He had published the books, and everybody was like, "Oh, fine, thank you, good to meet you. You're a
publisher?
dancer,
So
publisher."
Well, does that
ER.
also? What about OR? Does that? Because look at you,
No, that's
choreographer,
or,
teacher.
but
Well,
er is the version of it. Very proper. We say, oh, it's very and it just fits the word. When you say it, it sounds like what it is.
it's.
It's very
I love it. I love it. I love it. And when I invited you to this podcast, we had a phone call, and you mentioned it, and it flashed me back to when you used the word before. Lawyer, right? Which is what I am
Lawyer,
now.
right? Like,
Okay.
absolutely, whatever you need for it to be. That's the whole point about it. But for me, when I say that word it makes me like my shoulders go sideways
Oh
and
yes, and the chin
and
goes in the air. You
it's
have
in
nice
the air. It's
lines.
like in the ballet class. Just sniff. Don't
Yes.
sniff that cheese. Lower that chin just a tap here. No.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you for sharing about your amazing achievements. And it could not have been easy. So I just briefly want to delve into your self-talk, what you said to yourself in order to achieve those wonderful goals. I'll quickly go first. My self-talk was the first day I sat in law school. They said the usual: look to your left, look to your right, and those people won't be here. And I made a decision that day that I was going to finish law school and that I was going to get a bar card. And I didn't achieve it the first time, as I was saying. I did pass the second time, but I knew that I would do it. I set the goal and I saw myself doing it. In fact, my passwords had to do with passing the bar exam. Everything I said and did had to do with my goal. And just like we've talked about putting things on the mirror and reminding ourselves of who we are and what we can accomplish. So, for those people who are watching and listening that wonder if they have what it takes to achieve their goals and their dreams, Patdro, what are some of the things that you said to yourself to overcome the very natural belief that most people have, the belief I'm unworthy? How did you overcome any sort of belief that tried to pop into your mind that you were not going to be able to achieve your goals? What practical steps did you take or conversations did you have with yourself?
Well, like I said, it started at home with my mom. My mom owned a family business. So we always did the pros and cons. Like I said earlier, in college, I had a touring theater company. And I wanted to move to Atlanta to get dance. And I said to my mom, I said, hey, mom, I think I want to be an artist. I didn't know any professional artist. Everybody was educated and they were really wonderful too. Bertram Martin, Dr. Lau, they were really wonderful people. But my mom said, so what if you move to Atlanta and you're not any good? Could you take the booze with the
Ooh.
cheers?
Is
I
that
said,
sort of like dealing with rejection?
yeah. Boo, boo. You're not
Right.
good. Boo, booze and cheers. Yeah. Definitely dealing with rejection. So that was always a foundation. So a foundation of mine was I would do the pros and the cons.
Okay.
So that's how it started. I grew up in a family business, and when you ever had to venture outside of yourself, outside the home, whatever was difficult, we talked about it at home first before you went to the public.
Okay, so let's imagine that someone doesn't have the type of family that you have. I shared earlier in a different episode that my mother was very instrumental in helping me achieve my goals and that there was nothing I could not do. But let's say the viewer doesn't have a support system at home that can help with the pros and cons list. Is that something that a person can achieve with a friend or a trusted confidant?
Absolutely no. As this story goes on, that when I moved to Atlanta, my mom passed in the first 3 months of me being in Atlanta. So she passed a week right before my first professional show. So what I learned in that time after that a major component of love is support. So I
Well,
had
it's
to
interesting.
realize that I had no one to support me doing those things. So I had to tell myself things. So my first mantra that I started with myself was, I'm a strong black man. and black mean inclusive for me, not exclusive to anybody else, but just to remind myself that I'm strong enough to be able to take it. So that's how I started doing those marches. And every time I turned a corner, I would just try to tell myself, I put an M on my door and say, I'm going to make it. I'm a man. I'm going to make money. So I mind things when I forgot myself. I put things around my apartment, my studio apartment, mind you, but it was my first one, but it was good to remind myself of what that was. And I keep that going everywhere I go. I always have things that remind me who I am first before I give it to someone else.
And similar to what happened with you, Patdro, my mother died 6 weeks before I sat for the bar exam. And it was very difficult. I didn't pass it the first time. I passed in the multi-states in every state but California. But you can't get a bar card unless you pass in California. It's one of the most difficult states. But I still had my mother's voice in my head. And so for those people who don't have a primary caregiver, whether they're with us during our achievements or whether their memories are continuing to reverberate in our mind, but let's say the viewer or the listener has a negative committee in their head. Let's say that there was opposition with their family of origin or their primary caregivers or even their friends on social media. How does one overcome, in your experience, the negative, what I call the committee in a person's head that can cause doubt or negativity or confusion?
For me, it starts with the question, why am I listening to these people? You start with the why. Even whenever you want to solve, when you go to the doctor, you have to tell him or her what's going on. But the first thing you have to figure out is, well, let's see why this is happening. So you have to have a little bit of confidence in who you are. Look in the mirror and say, well, why do I need? And be honest with that. Because some things you need things from these people. Don't try to make up something. Be very honest. It's just you. No one has to know but you, but ask yourself, why do I need these people? Because they make me feel safe. They make me feel like my community. But sometimes they're not supporting you. So you have to figure out, like, what can I do in this time just to support myself? And it starts with small things like writing a note or saying congratulations when you leave out of the thing. Something I do when I first wake up in the morning. For me, my spirituality works with Christ. So when I wake up, I say the Lord's Prayer before I get out of the bed. When I'm next to my wife, she gets up before me, or I get up, whatever. When I realize I'm somebody who I am, I honor who God is. I say something out of my mouth to thank God for this day that I'm going to use every day, no matter what the day is going to bring. I don't know what it's going to bring, but I know I started off being grateful. And I will say that the last thing that I would add to that is, like, find a way to see what you can give away. When you wake up every morning, find something to give. If you want to change your dynamics of where you are, give. Maybe it's just a smile. Maybe you don't have a lot of money. Maybe it's just, a piece of gum. You say, hey, maybe it's a compliment. Oh, you look so wonderful. Oh, Ginger, look at that hair. You look great. I haven't seen you with long hair like this. You can say all this kind of stuff. So find something to give. When you wake up and say, well, I'm in a rut. What can I do to get out of it? Find a way to give.
That's great. I appreciate that. And that's a great message, Patdro, because it does help one to be in the service of our fellow human beings. And your spirituality and your belief in God has always permeated everything you've done. I remember watching some of your church productions before you became a Broadway choreographer. And so I just have to say that it's such a beauty. You're such a beautiful example of a person who really lives your belief system. So in this podcast, we're talking a lot about how to achieve balance in one's lives. And we have a step-by-step way for people to overcome limiting beliefs, to overcome maladaptive behaviors. And one of the balancing efforts is biological. It has to do with the brain. And so I would like for you to discuss how you have used your right brain, the right side of your brain, which is the creative and intuitive side of the brain, with your left side of your brain, which is analytical and it enables a person to make a living. So are you in the business of the performing arts, or are you in a different business? And how do you keep that balance so that you're able to use both your left and right hemisphere to achieve health and well-being?
Well, I realized early on in the career that no work, no eat.
So the performing arts is not just performing arts. What kind of business is it?
I'm in show business.
There you go.
Performing arts. I'm in show business, so that's how I learned it. But that's a way to set it up. So I realized, like, good creativity goes with commerce. So whatever you do with commerce, and commerce is the science of it, which I call the science of art. Did you call people back on time? Do you want this job? Is this job for you? Is this something you can afford to let live through you as an actor and do whatever? If you can do that, then yes, then come over here and say, oh, I love this part. I love being, it's about nature. It's something I always want to do. So you can cover it up that way. So you have to find that balance. One of the casting directors told me a long time ago, she said, well, artists, you artists are so flighty, do whatever. So I decided as an artist, I was going to do two things. I was going to have the same phone number, which I have now since the 80s, and I would have the same address, which I have a P.O. box, and do whatever. So I could be something that's consistent. So I could practice some sense of being consistent in those things. So you have to find a way that business work is so business. So you have to call people back on time. You have to show up on time. When I get a project, I have to do research. No matter what I feel about it, I go back and see what time period it is, who said it to those people, what were those people talking about during that time period. So there's a level of using your left brain that goes with your right brain. But the beauty of that, this is my left brain, this is my right brain. But when it comes in, it covers up, all you see is art, though. That's all you see. But it's right on, all this left brain stuff is right here supporting me. But the right brain has all this art that comes out in trees and flowers and birds. Oh my. So you have to find a combinational way of using those things if you're going to be successful. You don't get a chance to do one or the other. It's always going to involve those things that you didn't want to pay attention to in school if you were not so left brain. But you have to use it, and they all work. And you can figure out how to use it in your own manner. I pick days. For me as an artist, when I go to bed at night, I'm an independent artist, not a freelance artist. I write a to-do list. So when I wake up the next day.
Let me interrupt you. I apologize. I'm interrupting you.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to interrupt the court, but I'm going to interrupt you because I think that is very important what you just said. What do you mean when you say you're not a freelance artist, you're an independent artist? Tell us more about the language you're using to describe your career.
You're right. So I don't want you to think that it's free.
Right,
I want you to automatically know I'm independent. I'm self-contained. What you're going to pay for, you're going to get all my years of experience. So I just separated that way to make sure that we are aware of that when we come to a freelancer. No, I'm not a freelancer. I'm an independent artist. I work all over. I don't have to freelance. And people want what I have. So I'm an independent artist. And I'll ask you, are you ready for that? And then now we got a good conversation.
I love it. And yes, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that, Patdro. And as I listen to you, I think about how does that apply to the very left brain legal career? And the answer is, if a person who's practicing law or in a left brain engineering, science, medical type of career and doesn't have a creative outlet, there's burnout. There's burnout, there are health issues, and there are other types of imbalances that occur. There's a dis-ease when a person is not exercising their divinely created left and right hemisphere of the brain. And without being too preachy, we're talking about the corpus callosum, which goes offline and stops the connection between the left and the right brain when people go through trauma. And so part of this podcast is to deal with limiting beliefs, limiting behaviors that are the result of trauma or other types of activities that have occurred that people have not adapted well to. And so this applies to everyone. If you're not a Broadway choreographer, or if you're not a licensed attorney, and if you don't have credentials behind your name, but you're not using your left and your right brain, then you're not able to achieve the success, which is defined by the most authentic version of oneself in order to be his highest or best person, right? His or her, or there. So success doesn't mean that a person receives a certain amount of income. Success doesn't mean that a person has accolades and an entire theater of people standing up and applauding. Patdro, although you've achieved those things, what would you say to a person who hasn't received those types of accolades in order to define success?
Well, like I said earlier, no work, no eat.
True. But if there's a person, but what about a person who doesn't make an income? What about a person who's dedicated to maintaining the home, for example?
Right. But that's still something. That person has to make food. Even maybe somebody else may bring it in, but they have to prepare food. They have to make sure they have to balance out how much food to buy, what you need from the store, How do you set up whether the kids go here, they go there, what's the schedule? So all those things that you were talking about, left brain, right? But we have to do all of those things. So, some of the best, engineers are stay-at-home moms. You know how to manage everything. We try to do is like we are a mess. So that's a great thing to do. It's not lesser. I don't look at jobs as bigger or smaller or category. If you have these same techniques that you use, you manage people. You was talking about the lawyers and doctors earlier about using the left brain, but all of those things, the left brain has to go with the right brain because they have to deal with people.
That's
People
right.
have issues. People need help. People need to find out what's going on. So it's always the forefront. And the people who have the old school, the best bedside manner will come up, and they'll be the people people want to come to. I like being in the presence of the doctor because they make me feel wonderful. They make me feel comfortable, and that's what's about when you're giving things to people. You have to find out a way to make people comfortable. So even no matter what your degrees are, I didn't always, I worked at several universities around the country. Sir, I've been a guest director there and a guest professor at Syracuse University, Howard University twice, Florida State, Northern Colorado, and Florida State. So going to those places, I have to adapt to what the curriculum is, what the students are, what they've been teaching, what I'm coming in. That the teachers that are there are always mom and dad, and they come in, I'm Uncle Patdro. So being able to adapt would be the thing that I would be able to say. Don't worry, but don't judge. Don't look in yourself in the rearview mirror. Look at the mirror. See what you have right now. What you can do with what you have at this moment. Sometimes it may be small, but always celebrate those small victories. Don't wait for a big something to happen. Celebrate your small victories, but stop right where you are.
That's really key. And that's a great message, Patdro. Thank you so very much. I think about the children that have been affected by the world, and especially how social media is changing, how from COVID to present, social media has changed the esteem of some of our younger viewers. And Patdro, I know that you've got quite a bit of experience working with all ages. What would you say to a younger viewer that is looking at an entire lifetime ahead of them in order to help that person snap out of limiting beliefs and maladaptive behavior in order to align with his or her or their true authentic self?
That's different for everybody. Depends on what cultural background you're in and who you have to. Somebody has to tell you, like when you're a kid, somebody has to say, I'm mom and you're Patrick. Somebody has to tell me who I am. My mom said there were certain things you shouldn't say about yourself. Other people should say about you, and to encourage you in that manner. So I would say for that young person, find things like social media not only works on the downside, but also works on the good side of what you can do. You can look up people who are artists and send them an email and say, hey, I'm an artist. I'm 12 or 13, but I do one now. If I can reach out to you and say whatever, or watch content that says positive things about what you want to do. Maybe you want to be an astronaut. So you look at you start getting books and things about astronauts and how you travel and how do you figure, I need to get better at math. So I need to study more math. So you write down, whenever I have an issue, I write that one thing down and I put it in the circles. I'll put astronaut down. What would space travel. I need to know how to fly. I need to know how to read. I need to be good with people. I need to be comfortable in a tight space. So you start working on one individual thing to get you to your format. So if you don't have anybody around, what you do have the internet to help you on that side, then ask them. Somebody will chime in. Ask them if you have somebody in your corner, you can ask them one or two questions about that. People are more than apt to say that if you tell them what your story is. Hey, I'm 14 years old. I would love to be an astronaut. Now, could you help me? Any advice? They said, oh, great. My mom and dad said it's okay for me to talk, or whoever my guardian is said it's okay for me to be on this chat when blah, 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 blah. And make sure it happens that way. But find a way to encourage yourself. Don't let things that the world didn't invent anything. They're just perverted things. Things are good. I believe that if you look for the good, you'll find it. So keep looking for the good.
That's right. I really appreciate your positive outlook on how to move forward and how to achieve a person's dreams and goals. And I especially appreciate your tying in how our logical brain will help the creative brain. And what was that hand signal that you used? You said
Yeah,
the
this one starts, but underneath of it, this is the science of it, but this is the soul of it. You don't see it, but it's always there. Even like this, you know that it's all working together, but underneath they're doing this kind of collaboration. But they
sort of like
work
the
just
egg
like
beater
this. Yeah, yeah.
underwater when you're my daughter used to be a water polo player, but she'd be up way above the water and she would hurl that ball with her strong arms, but
hmm
underneath her feet were doing the egg
Right,
beater
right, right,
underneath
right.
the
That's the
water.
science of it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, they have
absolutely.
to work together. Nothing. The universe, everything works together. The sun, the moon, the cold, the hot, everything works together. If you can realize, like, oh, I got to step outside of myself and allow something to affect me, and I got to affect it. So, and you figure out a way to do it.
We were talking on a different episode about how once a person is aligned with his, her, or their authentic self, the universe rises up to meet that person. One final thought, and I don't want to be negative, but I have a tendency to, as an attorney, think of the worst case scenario because when I'm preparing for litigation, I think of what the other side's going to do and how to overcome that. So, as I'm listening to you, and you're very positive and you're so encouraging, I wonder about the listener who feels as though they cannot achieve their goals. They don't have the skill. Maybe they didn't learn how to dance like you, or maybe they don't have the training in school to pass a very difficult bar exam, and they really want it, but they just absolutely cannot achieve that goal. How does a person, because of whatever reason, perhaps there's a physical limitation, there might be a different type of limitation. How does a person redefine the dream or the goal so that it aligns with their authentic self? If there's a
But
way to do that, Patdro.
yeah, sure. I just believe in my world. You know, there's wind. It's either a blessing or a lesson.
Okay.
So you know, yeah. So you have to, you know, you have a lesson. So if you learn something from it, it's never a loss. You know, if I didn't achieve, I want to be this. You know, I'm not good at the garden. My wife is, but I go outside, but I buy some plants sometime, and it does whatever. But I learned something from that. Oh, I watered that too much. You know, I do whatever. Or I didn't give that a proper amount of sun. So each time I get better at what I do. I'm not the top gardener, but man, I'm sure 5 steps farther than I was the last time I did it. So you know, the thing is, you know, you don't want to compete with anybody else. You don't want to compare yourself to anybody else. You don't want to complain where you are. So you don't want to compete. You don't want to compare. You don't want to complain about where you are. Just keep going forward. Take those things that you don't know as a lesson. What did I learn? I didn't achieve everything, but what did I learn? Oh my God, I know so much more about whatever I'm working on. So just work toward that way. Don't judge yourself according to anybody else. Only judge yourself according to you.
That's right. Radical self-love and radical self-acceptance is
Mhm.
one of the keys that unlocks
Right,
those
right,
bars that keep us in chains and keep us
right,
behind a gilded cage sometimes.
right,
So
right,
that's very helpful. And my mother used to say, learn something new every day.
right.
And that is a win. And that is
hmm
a mark of success.
Right, right,
I don't
right.
know if you've heard this expression, but lawyers will say, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
That's true, and that's very true. We got a lot of
I think it's
cliches in our
callous, but it's
cultures, you
true.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, a lot of
But it's fun.
cliches in our cultures that come from some place that we should just pick up and use.
Well, some of them, but here's where the skills of the snap out come into play. So we
hmm
identify the belief, and that's and as you follow snap out, you'll see identifying the belief is the step one. So we have
hmm
and one, and identifying the belief is the first step to
hmm
being able to determine whether we should believe that belief, that thought about ourselves, or whether we should reject it and
hmm
move toward the thoughts that your mother taught you and that
hmm
my mother taught me about being worthy.
hmm
So, do you have any final admonitions or words of encouragement for the viewers? Because you have done so much in your life and you've achieved such greatness, and you've been with people who have achieved greatness. What final words do you have to say to the audience?
Be honest to yourself. Be honest to where you are. Don't look forward for out approval. Do it because that's something that you love. And usually, if it's in service to people, it's gonna we give some reward to. So when I come every show that I go to, I bow down on one knee and say, "Hey, I'm here to serve," and that is the truth. Even though I may appear to be direct, like I'm in charge, but I'm really in service to you. You know, semantics there. You know, but I would say to you as a young person, Write down your things, learn everything you can learn, be respectful. I think my things work in three forms: education, application, and presentation. Figure out what you want to do. I need to be more educated about that. I need to sit around somebody and learn how to apply what I want to do, or I need to present it more. I need to just go on and do it, man. I need to just be like Nike, just do it. So figure out where you are along those lines. Do I need to be educated more about it? Do I need to learn how to apply it? It means probably sit down and be quiet. Don't listen. Don't let's learn from somebody. Then the next thing, I need to just go out and do it. No matter what it thinks, I'm going to be proud of what I've done. So honor yourself. Follow your path. It'll be use that left brain and the right brain. Then wherever you go, you can just snap out of it. You're good.
And snap into one's authentic self. And Patdro, if someone wants to reach out to you, for example, because you said that these young people can reach out to the people who have mentored them or they look up to, what is your email address or what is your website, please?
Our website is patdroharris.com. That's P-A-T-D as in David, R-O-H-A-R-R-I-S, patdroharris.com.
Well, thank you so much, Patdro, for being a part of this podcast. And thank you so much, Alex, for your wonderful producing. And thank you so much to the viewer for coming and tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yes.